Stephen Ha asks, I thought you were great in The Last Boy Scout, and I developed a little crush on you when I first saw the movie as a young'un. Any thoughts about taking a break from horror and doing some more action? And, in a related question, Scott Spencer asks, would you like to work on an action movie and kick ass?
For a while I did like 3 or 4 action movies in a row, and I thought, wow, I was like Marked for Death, Last Boy Scout, Daylight, back to back, so I became kind of like the action girl for a second. Those are fun, but unless you're a movie star like an Angelina Jolie or Mila Jovovich, like to be the lead in one of those movies as like a chick that kicks ass, I don't think I'm a big enough name to really put butts in the seats, maybe. That's why horror is so great for me, because I can be the final girl and have a lot to do. But sure, I mean, I'm willing. I'm open to any kind of movies. People always assume that like I've specifically chosen to do horror and that's all I'll do, and that's so not the case. There were 20 years where I didn't do any horror movies, not by choice. It just didn't come my way. I was auditioning for stuff and just wasn't getting it. As an actor, it's like when you finish a movie, you have to start over again. So it just sort of was the cards that were dealt to me. And then Rob Zombie relaunching my career in the genre, then all these other genre movies kept kind of coming to me. And they're great opportunities as an actor, to really play, and they're really hard. So, but rewarding at the same time. So, I mean, I think anything other than horror, maybe action would be really, really difficult too physically, but like a rom-com or something, a little good indie film would be like a vacation. It wouldn't be, not having to show up on set every day and be in like this fight or flight mode and have to literally like kick butt, and I'm battling these guys that are, enormous next to me, would be a nice little break. So yeah, I would consider it.
Charles Masida Maciel asks, how come in most of your recent movies you die immediately or midway? The Victim, Black Waters, Devil Knight, etc. Whose idea is that? Would love to see you fight and survive. Love you.
Obviously this person, no offense, hasn't actually seen those movies, because I'm all the way through The Victim. Even though the opening I die, I actually am periodically throughout the whole movie. Blood Night, I am the killer, therefore I die at the very, very end. Devil's Night, I die at the end. What were the other ones that he said?
Black
Waters, I die at the end. I'm the second lead. I'm in the entire movie.
He's on glue.
This person
Charles, you're on glue. What the hell? And Hatchet
Charles,
2.
Come on, Hatchet 2, Hatchet 1. I mean, like every movie. The only movie that I actually would say maybe I had the smallest part in Rob Zombie's Halloween, but I didn't die. So, yeah, I've been throughout all of those movies. So maybe he hasn't seen them yet. I'm not
He's
quite sure
what's
going on. Yeah, right.
The kids today. Stephen Ha asks, I love questions like this.
Uh-oh.
Because I'd be too embarrassed to ask this.
Oh no.
Are there any roles Are there any roles you played that you now regret?
Not really. I mean, I would regret things that I don't do. I'd rather take a chance and see what happens with it. There really hasn't been anything that there's been movies that I've done that haven't turned out necessarily the way that I would have wanted them to turn out, but I've always been okay with the work that I've done. I've always shown up and given it 100%, and I'm not in control of the way the movie looks at the end of the day. All I can do is my job. So there hasn't really been anything that, I haven't turned down anything that was something, huge and amazing. I've done movies that I wished had been different, but I don't really have any regrets, no.
Scott Gregg asks, what horror film that you've appeared in is your favorite, and what non-horror film you've appeared in is your favorite?
A horror film that's my favorite. Well, I mean, I've got to throw props to like Halloween 4 because it's my first movie. So, and still watching it as an adult and seeing what I was put through as a kid is kind of shocking to me. I would never let my kid do anything like that. I mean, that's crazy. And Halloween 5 was even worse. All the stuff on the, in front of the car and in the laundry chute and all of this like craziness was all me doing that stuff as a kid. So probably wouldn't do that again. So I think that those are sort of my favorite, are the older Halloween movies, as far as horror, aside from the Hatchet movies, which is a great role for me as an adult. And I kick ass, which of course finally I get to get the bad guy. So I love those two. And then non-horror, I love Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dad. It's one of those movies that comes on that I'm like, oh, yay. It's like your pacifier, like your blankie when you're a kid. You're like, I love this movie. And you can kind of sit and like curl up on the couch at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and like watch it on, Stars or HBO or something like that. So I still love that movie. And like Wish Upon a Star was a Disney movie that I did that I really liked. Those are kind of the old, fun, cute. I'm a girl. I could say Last Boy Scout, but I'm a girl, so.
Dave Remington asks, how sick of doing horror movies are you?
I'm not sick of doing horror movies. I'm maybe a little less enthusiastic about being covered in blood for that long, for that many hours a day, and that many days out of a shoot. That's the only thing, and I think that that's kind of what Hatchet did. Was normally you do a whole movie where you're kind of like a regular person, and then you have a big scene where you have a couple days where you shoot, where you have a struggle and a fight, and you cry, and then you die, and you're covered in blood for like a day, and then you're done. Where in both Hatchet movies, I had a month each time where I'm literally like in hell. I'm covered in blood, I'm covered in something, I'm fighting for my life, I'm doing all this physical stuff. So I think that was like, okay, wow, I'm getting a little bit old. I kind of feel it at the end of the day. I'm like, I'm a little bit tired of this. This is like really exhausting for me. So it's fun, but it's I think people watch these movies and they assume that it shoots the way they see it. It's like in real time, where they don't know that it didn't just take 90 minutes to make that happen, that it took months and months to make that happen, and that that one moment that they saw took 5 days to shoot, and that while you're lit outside in the swamps and you're covered in blood, you're like a giant lollipop, and when you take off your clothes at the end of the day to like clean it off in a stinky little room where you're trying to pour water on you and you're freezing and you're trying to pick 65 dead bugs off of your body in places that you don't even want to know they go. That's the stuff that I'm a little bit sick of. Other than that, I still love doing these movies.
Sean Avalos asks, does the dark side of Hollywood discourage or weaken your love for acting or working in the film industry?
That's an interesting question, actually. It's called show business for a reason, because it's still a business. And I think that when you're a kid, it's just fun. You get to get out of school, you get to, run in front of moving cars and, put some money in your bank account when you had like a little savings book where you can see like saving up for college or a car or whatever it is. So I think that when I've gotten older and realized that there are so many politics behind making movies, it is a bit more discouraging, and also realizing that it doesn't have anything to do with your resume or your talent or your ability, and being a female as well. I worked a lot when I was younger because I looked older than I was, and I was a really good kid on set, and I could cry and do all of these things really well, and play much younger. So I worked a lot. You get older and I'm petite, or I'm older but I look young, and that doesn't work for me anymore because I can't play high school or college, and I can't play a mom, and maybe I'm not as pretty as they want their leading girl to be, but I'm not character enough to play the girl that doesn't get the guy. And there's all this stuff that kind of comes into play that takes the fun a little bit out of the process. But at the same time, you realize like it's all about marketability, and you're like, oh, well, on to the next. It's not a matter of, at least I can go in there and go, it's not a matter of me not feeling like I could do the job, because I know that I could do the job. But when you're auditioning in a room that's like you have 3 minutes to show them that you can carry a film, it definitely is a bit challenging. So I hate going to auditions. I hate having to walk in there and do it. The moment I'm in the room and I'm doing what I love to do, I love it. And then I throw the pages in the garbage on the way out, and then I forget about it. I don't think about it again. And then I'm like, oh, wait, whatever happened to that movie? Or you see it and you go, really? That's who they went with? I don't get it. I don't understand. But, that's why I'm directing now. Then I get to call the shots.
You seem very conscious about how to manage your career. You've almost created a very unique niche for yourself within the acting world as a surviving actor. You've used the Rob Zombie Halloween remake to sort of find this unique little area that you sort of dominate. Mm-hmm. You're considered the reigning scream queen and the indie scream queen. So looking ahead to your career as you get older, you've mentioned sort of some of the roles that you'd like to do, but how do you envision your acting career as you get into your 40s and maybe even into your 50s?
Mm-hmm. You know, I think that it's, if you think for one moment that you have any control over your career, you're sorely mistaken, because I think that it's something that has chosen me, and then I've just embraced it. And have finally started to kind of, for the first time in my life over the last year, really started understanding my value maybe in the industry, and not just taking roles for the sake of being afraid of never working again. Because making that transition from child actor to adult was really difficult for me. So there were years that I didn't work. So I think that I get offers all the time for stuff that I go, well, I need to work. And I think that now realizing that I don't need to be an actor. I don't want to be an actor anymore. I really enjoy directing so much more. I think that I've started to understand the business aspect of it and strategizing a bit more about kind of like going, wow, okay, I could pick and choose and know that this will always be here for me if I want it to be. So it's not like when I was younger where I was like, do I go to college and maybe never have a career again if I leave for 4 years? Or do I stay in it? And I stayed in it. And I feel like I should have maybe gone to college and done something else and hoped this would be here. With the fan loyalty in the genre, I will always have a career as an actor in horror movies if I choose to have that. So I can take the time off and go have a family and direct and do other things, and know that like Dee Wallace, like Caroline Williams, like Adrienne Barbeau, like all these wonderful genre actresses that are in their 40s and 50s and 60s, that option is still very much a part of what my future could look like if I choose to take advantage of that. Where there's going to come a point where I'm not going to be playing, the cute girl running around getting chased by the killer and surviving. I'm even almost on the older side of that already, so I'm kind of just getting by the skin of my teeth because I play a little bit younger. But I'm not really the mother of the girl that survives either yet. So there's going to be like a good 10-year gap. So I'm kind of like, let me hammer them out, and then I can take a little bit of a break and kind of do something else and see what happens. After I did Halloween 2, I was like, no more slasher films. So there were things that I hadn't done yet. I hadn't been a killer. I hadn't done a zombie movie. I hadn't done a vampire movie. I hadn't done. There were things that I was like, okay, I haven't done this yet in the genre, but I don't want to keep doing. I don't want to keep being the high school kid that dies. So I got to do something else. So I stopped. I started turning that stuff down because it gets boring and old for fans and for me. So I did Stakeland, which I thought was an amazing vampire movie, totally different than the stuff that I was reading. I did Night of the Living Dead, The Origins, which has yet to come out. Zombie. I did some animated stuff, God Killer. I did, came back in the Hatchet series and finally killed the bad guy. I was the killer in Blood Night. So I definitely started to in Cyrus, I played my age. For me, it was like, I want to wear a suit. In Chrome Skull, Robert Hall directed and wrote it. And he's like, what do you want to do? I said, I want three things. I want to work with Brian Greene. I want to wear a suit and look pretty, please. I don't want to die and be covered in blood. And he was like, got it. So I did all of those things. So I think I can kind of start maybe not feeling like I have to do everything that comes my way. And I haven't. So it's going like, okay, I played a sheriff in Dead TV that is yet to come out because I wanted to work with with Eric Roberts. And I thought, when am I ever going to get to play the sheriff of a town? Like, that's kind of funny. But I thought it was pretty badass. So there are those sorts of things. So to answer your question, I have no idea what my career is going to look like. I wouldn't, if you told me that I would be here still talking about this stuff 20 years ago, I would have been like, no way. If you would have told me that I would be marrying someone that's 9 years younger than me a year ago, I would have said, you're out of your freaking mind. So you really don't know what's going to happen. I kind of feel like it comes to me and then I can sort of choose it as it comes.
You've kind of answered this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because Andrew Mitzo asked, did you ever think when first doing Halloween that you would become such a famous face in the horror genre in the future?
Never in a million years. I think I had no idea what it was, even as a kid. I didn't know what the Halloween franchise really, I had no idea that following that it had. And I think that why I ended up doing so well in that franchise was because Halloween 3 was so different from 2, and 4, it had been a while after 3 that 4 came out, and it brought Michael Myers back. So I think that I just so happened to be lucky enough to get cast and create this sort of thing. And a great role was written for a kid. And I don't, that really, other than like Pet Sematary, I mean, there were a couple of, Omen, there were very few kids in movies like as leads. It's hard. It's like you don't work with kids or dogs, so I get it. I mean, I wouldn't want to. I don't even know if I would direct kids or animals, to be quite honest. It's difficult. But I really had no idea that it's funny to me that we're still sitting here talking about, people still want to talk about a Halloween 4. I mean, I was 10 years old. I'm 36. Like, it's crazy to me. But I'm thank God.
Alex Anzo asks, what did you say when you found out you were going to be in Rob Zombie's Halloween?
Well, I was not supposed to be in the original Halloween. I had heard from a fan at a convention in Boston. Someone came up to me and said, I hear Rob Zombie's remaking Halloween and you're going to be Laurie Strode. And I went, really? I am?
So Lance was right.
That's amazing. Yeah, right? I was like, that's awesome. I had no idea. That seems totally freaking weird to me that I would be playing my mother, but that's okay. So I got home and called my manager and said, they're making Rob Zombie, who I was a huge fan of, is making a reboot, Rob Zombie's Halloween, whatever you want to call it. And I would love to do a cameo or something in the movie. So she called and they said, absolutely not. Rob wants nobody from any of the other Halloween movies in his movie, so no. So she went over their head and called Dimension and kind of coerced them into allowing me to at least audition for it. So I got my sides like everybody else and went to the audition and signed my name in and thought, this is so surreal right now. And I walked in and I auditioned for Annie because I thought Laurie was not quite me. Having nothing to do with the Halloween franchise, I just wasn't right for Laurie Strode. And I wasn't really Linda either, but I thought I could probably pull Annie off. So I went in and my audition tape is actually on the extras on the DVD, which is totally mortifying. But it just goes to show people, like, that's how much time you get in a room. Like, you literally walk in and you have like a minute to show them that like you could be in a movie. So it's awful. I went in and auditioned and we talked for like a minute. Rob was not in the room. He was actually watching on tape. He doesn't like to be influenced by him liking you as a person in the room and wanting to give you the job because he's that nice of a guy. And he wants to see what you're going to look like on film because that's what everybody else is going to see. And then I got a call saying, okay, you're Rob's choice. I was like, yes, awesome. Now who do I have to go through? Like, well, you've got to get approved by the Weinsteins. I was like, oh God, they're never going to want to cast me. So then they approved me, and then it was Malika Cod, who had to approve me, who I grew up with. And it was a whole, month or 2 months of waiting to see. Then I found out I got the job, and then I waited another 2 or 3 weeks to get a script. And then I got the script, and then I was like looking to die. When do I die in the car? When do I die in the car? When do I get stuck out the window in the laundry room? Like, when am I going to do this? And I was like, wait a minute, this is totally different. I'm totally confused. This is not the original, but it was his original. And then I went, oh my God, I live. I freaking live. And I went like running out of my bedroom. I was like, I live. And they cut it out of the movie, but in the movie, you see me getting taken out of the house on a gurney, and there's a whole scene between Brad Dourif and I with him loading me into the ambulance, and I'm very much alive and talking. But they didn't show that, so nor is that in the outtakes.
Aaron Mashtia asks, would you like to direct a Halloween movie someday?
Hell no. I did not want to direct a Halloween movie. I mean, Rob had a hard enough time. You're just critiqued, and everyone's watching. No. Answer is no. I have no desire to direct any movie that's already been famous, that's well known and loved and cherished, and like, no thanks. I'll do my own movies.
Does your heart bleed for Rob Zombie when you saw some of the backlash from fans?
It sucks. It's if you're not a Rob Zombie fan, you're not going to like it. I do feel like, thank God, because I was in it, I think some people that didn't maybe necessarily support it went to see it because I was there, so that helped. It was unfortunate watching someone that loved this movie more than anybody, and all the crap that he was given throughout making, it wasn't what he necessarily wanted to do for both of them. But that's what happens when you have a studio involved. You don't have the final say or the final cut. So it was a little disheartening more to watch his struggle through trying to make the movie that he really wanted to make, because he is a fan at heart. And everyone's got an opinion. But the way I feel about it is like, it's when I do a convention, someone's like, I hated Rob Zombie's Halloween. It's like, thanks. I don't know why you bothered to come over to me to tell me that. So, but you're entitled to your opinion. I happen to like the movie. I like one more than two. I like the director's cut of two. I have an opinion just like you do, even though I'm in them. So everyone's going to ridicule and pick apart movies, but those are the ones that go see it 10 times. So feel free to ching for everybody involved in the movie. The more you talk crap about it, the better publicity we get. So feel free.
So I saw Among Friends last night. Mm-hmm. Remind me never to
come to my house for dinner.
Accept a dinner invitation to your house. Absolutely. My favorite part of it was actually the hallucinatory mental nervous breakdown that one of the characters has, and that's where you make your cameo, where you pay tribute to the character you played in the original Halloween series. So what inspired specifically the filming of that sequence? Was there a particular film that you looked at that gave you inspiration visually for how to structure that? And also, can you explain, I don't know if you want to give it away, but can you explain the decision about who you cast in cameo roles in that sequence?
I think, one of my worries for the movie was that the movie takes place, for the most part, in one room. And I've seen many movies that take place in one room, and they are really difficult to sit through. So while I wanted to use that to my advantage by forcing the audience to feel like, get me out of here, I'm so over this, I've got to get out of the room, I also wanted to give you an escape. That's why in the script, all of the flashbacks when she's outing everybody and all their wrongdoings and how they don't have integrity and what they did to each other, which isn't even that bad, honestly. It's her opinion. Again, it's like a good documentary where you're not really on either side. I needed a way to get you out of the room, not so much to get you away and give you a break, but just so I can pull you back in and force you to be stuck there again. So that was the same thing for the hallucination scene, which we shot in like an hour, literally. I just wanted to find a way, really where it came from is I wanted to find a way to get my friends, other outside of who I'd cast, to do cameos. And I didn't know how to do it. And I wanted to pull them all in. So originally everyone was going to come to the door. It was going to be this kind of trick or treat sort of thing. But then how would it make sense for her to get up and move, but she's actually tripping out? And how do we keep the shrooms, the drug trip, going throughout the movie so you remember, oh my God, she's on drugs and it's only going to get worse and he's on drugs. So it was a way for, and it's just something just to show that I could be creative and fun and sort of Requiem for a Dream-ish, which I loved. I mean, I'm not comparing my movie to Requiem for a Dream at all, but I was inspired by a lot of that stuff with minimal time and minimal cameras and really just finding ways in post-production to make that fun and trippy and throw me in there and throw Michael Biehn in there and throw everyone, we have our editor in there and other producers in there, our, Jennifer Blanc's mom's in there, like, my friends are in there. It was a way for literally my friend, my best girlfriend Tanya, my friend Kimberly, like I was like, I want everyone to come down and I've got an idea, we're just gonna shoot it. And Jennifer was like, Michael's coming in you've got 10 minutes with him, and you're like, oh my God, I've got 10 minutes. Oh my God, and Xavier Jens is in there. I wanted to work with him on, on our movie, The Farm, hopefully eventually. So I literally was like, okay, everyone, when they come in, we're just going to roll it. And it was really the DP and I that just went, let's just, with the craziest crap you could do, I just want you to do it. Like, let's just rock it out right now and see what happens. I had no idea what it was going to look like. But that's the beauty of editing, is that there's so much that I can do. And even the scene with the twins, like turning the dumb things of like turning a mirror upside down and shooting into it. Very basic standard stuff that I was like, oh my God, I didn't know we could do that. So it really was a chance for me to allow the creative team that I had involved in the movie to be creative and to have carte blanche to play. Like, I have tattoos on my body. When I go to get my tattoo work done, I don't come and tell him what to do. I sit there and go, do whatever you want. And I lay there and go, I'm sure I'm going to love it because I'm not stopping his creative process. And I think that was sort of what I wanted. If you're going to come work for me for free, essentially, I want you to be able to play. And that was where the hallucination stuff come from. And Brianne Davis, who plays Jules, who's having the trip, she's so beautiful to look at this close. I mean, it's like there's not a frame that she's not stunning in. And it's a fun ride. That sequence is really long. And people are, like, cheer when it's over because it's so fun. And then I got Michael to make fun of himself. Like, when do you get Michael Biehn to make fun of himself? And then we were so worried, like, when we went in for coverage, like, we didn't, Jen didn't know if she wanted Michael to say it again. I was like, no, say it again. Like, how did my career end up like this? And then I was like, he said it. I didn't write it. Michael totally said it. Like, I got it on tape. Like, Kane Hodder dancing. Careful what you say because I'm going to get you on tape. So that was kind of the overall goal was to give you an escape and show you that you can still have fun in a movie. It doesn't have to be taken so serious. It's a ride. Grab popcorn, grab a beer, grab your friends. Like, just enjoy it. It doesn't have to be. It's like I actually screened it for Adam Green and Joe Lynch a couple of months ago. And there's a scene where, there's some fingers getting chopped off. And in comparison to the movies that they make, I mean, like, enormous amounts of gore. When that happened, they both were like, oh my God, oh my God, oh. I'm like, are you guys serious right now? Because that's like a finger getting chopped off. You have like a 6-foot, chainsaw cutting people in half and like blood. I have my fist on a guy's throat and you're pulling out spines and you think that's gnarly? So anyway, it's just, I kind of think it's, the simpler the better. The more that you can use your imagination, I think the more the audience will enjoy it. And that's kind of what I try to do with Among Friends.